Okay, good evening, everyone. Today is Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. Thank you for joining us at the Russell City Reparative Justice Project Steering Committee within the City of Hayward. My name is Aisha Knowles. I serve as the chair of the steering committee, and I'm joined by Ms. Liz Sanchez, who serves as the vice chair. We'd like to get started. We appreciate your patience. We are going to get started with some introductions of the City of Hayward staff and our steering committee members that are present tonight, and then we will transition into the meeting. Before we get started, we just wanted to share that as there have been a couple of cybersecurity concerns and advisories and threats locally that did impact our ability to be able to send out an agenda ahead of time. So thank you for your patience. And we did attend a number of briefings behind the scenes so that we could prepare for tonight's meeting. So there is something I would like to read into the record. So the committee welcomes comments and requests that speakers present and ask that speakers present. All speakers present their remarks in a respectful manner within the established time limits that are expressed during this specific part of the meeting. We ask that you focus on issues which directly impact the topic or are within the jurisdiction of the steering committee. We welcome comments, including criticism about policies, procedures, and services of the committee. We just ask that speakers do not use threatening, profane, or abusive language which disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes the orderly conduct of our work as a committee. We're committed to maintaining an environment that is free from unlawful harassment, and we are mindful of all of the different members of the broader Russell City community and the city staff and those who support us that are in attendance tonight. We are all trying our best. Discriminatory statements or conduct that is hostile, intimidating, oppressive, or abusive or per se disruptive to the meeting will not be tolerated. And
Aisha, I think you're frozen.
Of Hayward. I'd like to acknowledge, so for those committee members who are present, so we are comprised of 13, there are 13 committee members and 2 alternates. I'll first start with the 13, Ms. Gloria Moore.
Present. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening. Deborah Harris. I think I saw Ms. Deborah. Oh, there you are, Ms. Deborah. You're on mute.
Ms. Deborah, you're muted.
Good evening. I'm sorry.
Good evening.
Hello, everyone.
Priscilla Figueroa. I think I saw her and she's come back to Priscilla. Michael D. Johnson.
Hello, Michael here.
Good evening. Tony Nguyen.
I'm here.
Hi, Tony. Carolyn Johnson. Ayanna Knowles.
Present.
Thank you. We have Michael V. Johnson.
Present. Good evening.
Good evening. Cindy Torres.
Present. Good evening and welcome, everyone.
Good evening. Francesca Thomas.
Present. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Francesca. Liz Sanchez is present. Thank you. Marion Johnson.
Present. Good evening.
Good evening. Just want to check for Priscilla Figueroa. Thought I saw her earlier. If not, we'll come back. And we also, our two alternate members are Kathy Rodriguez.
Hello, Russell City community.
Good evening, Kathy. And Velda Go. All right.
Maisha, I think I think I'm admitting Caroline now, and also I know Priscilla was here and may have dropped off to rejoin for her audio.
Okay, thank you. Our two supporting staff members from the city of Hayward are Assistant City Manager Regina Youngblood.
I think you forgot about me on the list, Daniel Moreno.
Daniel, I highlighted or I introduced the members of the Russell City Reparative Justice Steering Committee, but if you would like to
Right.
share
My
input, we'll come
apologies.
back to you. No
My
worries.
apologies.
So we're joined by Ms. Youngblood, Assistant City Manager.
Good evening. Good evening. Hello, Daniel.
Hello.
Good evening. And I'd like to introduce Ms. Josephine Ayankoya, the city's Equity and Inclusion Officer. And forgive me if I misstated your title.
You said it
It's
perfectly.
Josephine's first meeting, first steering committee meeting. So we'd like to officially say hello and welcome you to the group.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone.
To this project. Okay. All right. So did I forget anything? Liz or Josephine or Ms. Youngblood? Sorry, Ms. Ayankoya. Are there any staff members that I might not have seen?
No, I don't see any other staff members. There might be a couple of council members who have logged in if they want to.
I believe we have Ms. Angela Andrews.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for holding this meeting.
Thank you for joining us, Ms. Andrews.
And Aisha, we do have Priscilla on the line now.
Okay, perfect. Priscilla, if you could just say hello to everyone.
And CJ as well.
Okay, well, welcome to CJ or Carolyn Johnson and Priscilla Figueroa, also members of the committee. So tonight we are here to talk about, the goal of the meeting is to share, we have some draft recommendations to talk about, and there are some prioritization that we're hoping to get your input on tonight in preparation for a council work session at the end of March. And so Ms. Sanchez, I can't remember if we're going to share these slides that, or Ms. Ayankoya, did I miss something in the transition?
I think we're good to go. I know we wanted to do a brief acknowledgement of elders in the room, so maybe with the community introductions, we have the opportunity.
Yes, thank you. I misspoke. We are here because of the elders that created space for us to be here. And so we want to take this opportunity to acknowledge and recognize those former residents of Russell City that are joining us tonight. So if you are able to, you may place your name in the chat if you don't feel comfortable coming off of mute, or you can raise your hand. That would be a good way to make sure that we acknowledge you and read your name and formally acknowledge you as part of this meeting. So for those who are former residents of Russell City, if you could please raise your hand so that we can make sure that we acknowledge you in this space tonight.
I'm not in there. You took me out. Oh, no, I see.
So for those who are raising, you can either raise your virtual hand by going to the reactions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or you can raise your physical hand and we will go by the squares on Zoom to acknowledge you. So I'm going to ask for help from Ms. Liz Sanchez, just to make sure I'm not missing anyone. So I see Arthur Long, Zenobia Mills Rowe, Rafiq Mohammed, Kathy Rodriguez, Rob, Tony Nguyen, James Knowles, Gloria Moore, CCA, Cindy, are you able to share?
Yeah,
who's joining
that's
you?
my mom and my uncle are here.
Wonderful.
I
What
can't
are their
change my
names?
name. Go ahead.
My name's Al Pacheco. I'm glad to be here. My sister, Mabel Torres.
Good evening, Al Pacheco and Mabel Torres. Thank you for being here. Okay. Think I got the first screen. Second screen.
Arlene Thomas didn't raise her name, her hand. She's here.
Okay, and then in the chat, we have Leonard Ancona and Bonalita Ancona, and forgive me if I've misstated your name, and Mary Rico. All right. If I missed someone, we can double check before the end of the meeting or throughout the meeting. You're welcome to place your name in the chat and we'll read it into the record.
Did you get
And
my mother? My
no,
mother, Arlene.
I missed her. Good evening, Miss
Hi,
Arlene.
hi, everyone. Yeah.
Hello. Good evening. All right. So Rob, we got you earlier, and then Tony Nguyen, and then Leonard Ancona. Okay, thank you for being here and joining us tonight. Our main, as you know, our committee has been up to a lot of gathering of feedback as part of a survey that you may have received an invitation to participate in a few months ago. The results of the survey were summarized into 26 different categories. So this evening, we're going to share the 26 different categories. One moment, please. Okay, so we're going to highlight what the categories are and then ask for your input. So we have the flow, the way the meeting is going to flow, or this part of the meeting is going to flow, is so in the meeting invitation that you received for this meeting, there was an invitation for you to, or there was a link for you to take a survey. And that is related to the 26 draft recommendations that we have been reviewing as a steering committee over the last couple of months and working to prioritize. It's what you're doing is identifying what you believe is important and the ranking of those. And this will help inform our presentation that we take to the Hayward City Council work session at the end of March. Now, this is what the survey, when you click on the link, this is what the screen will look like. For those of you who haven't had the chance to click on it yet, Liz, if you could go to the next slide, please. And then you'll see that you have the opportunity to click on recommendations within each category. And so ranking something number 1 means it's the most important to you, and all the way to 26 will determine what you believe is the most important. So we will invite you to complete that survey by Friday, March 1st at 11:59 p.m. So in order to get through the survey, and the survey results were compiled by the Series Policy Research Group. They are not able to be here tonight, so we divided up the results into 13 slides. And so we're going to invite members of the steering committee to help us highlight what the recommendations are. There's 2 recommendations per slide. So the first slide, recommendations number 1 and 2, or we'll alternate who's sharing the information tonight. But Liz, would you like to start things off?
Sure. Can you hear me? Because I can't see both screens.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't mean to, I forgot that you were helping to manage it. How about I'll start off the first 2 recommendations, and then we'll transition to another steering committee member. We'll circle back to you a little bit later so you can help manage the screen
Okay.
sharing. Okay, so the first recommendation is compensation and support for Russell City's former residents. Guaranteed basic income, or GBI, for living former residents of Russell City. So that is the first recommendation that these survey results, kind of the category that it fit into. The second recommendation is an establishment of a community fund. This fund could provide a financial basis for community programs and infrastructure projects. So those are the first 2 recommendations. Gloria Moore, would you like to go over what the third and fourth recommendations are?
Oh, certainly. Recommendation number 3, free education for descendants. To rectify past educational discrimination, descendants of Russell City should receive free education, scholarships, and living stipends for academic pursuits.
Thank you.
Number 4, community engagement and accountability. Create community advisory groups consisting of Russell City descendants, residents, community leaders, and stakeholders for participatory decision-making.
Thank you, Gloria. The next 2 recommendations. How about Ayanna Knowles?
Absolutely, Madam Chair. Recommendation number 5, community land trusts and housing policies. Support and fund community land trusts for affordable housing and community ownership. Encourage the adoption of inclusionary housing policies and renters protection ordinances. Recommendation number 6, education and awareness programs. In collaboration with statewide partners and educational agencies, develop school curricula that integrate the history of Russell City, forced displacement, and racial injustice. Concurrently, implement public awareness programs to promote a broader understanding of Russell City's history and the implications of forced displacement.
Thank you. Francesca, are you able to share recommendations 7 and 8?
Absolutely. Sure. Recommendation number 7, policy changes. Champion legal reforms and policies that prevent recurrences of past injustices. Tools like community benefits, agreements, and inclusionary zoning should be meticulously defined. ensuring that they serve as effective safeguards against potential inequities. Number 8, publication and storytelling. Disseminate the history of Russell City through various media, including publications and documentaries. Advocate for mandatory inclusion of Russell City's history in educational curricula from grade school to college.
Thank you, Francesca. I'm just going to call on different steering committee members that I see on the screen. Marion Johnson, are you able to share items 9 and 10?
Yes, Madam Chair. Recommendation 9, revised eminent domain law and community governance reform. Eminent domain laws to ensure community protection. Establish a governance body representative of Russell City's diverse demographic to oversee and ensure that land acquisition aligns with community welfare and interests. Advocate for legal and policy changes aimed at preventing recurrence of historical injustices and protecting communities like Russell City. Recommendation number 10, educational scholarships and support. Scholarships and living stipends for academic pursuits can act as catalysts for community upliftment, breaking cycles of poverty and discrimination.
Thank you, Marion. For those who've just joined us, we are sharing out the 26 different categories of recommendations from the community survey that we collected results for in partnership with the Series Policy Research Group. You don't have to memorize any of the recommendations. They are available online, and a link was placed in the chat so that you can also weigh in on what your priority of recommendations are. We are sharing out the information right now, and then we will ask for some feedback from everyone. Deborah Harris, would you like to do 11 and 12, or would you like to share 11 and 12?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Recommendation 11, employment and economic opportunities. Grants for entrepreneurship should be extended to descendants irrespective of their location. Concurrently, businesses operating in the industrial park area of Hayward should be encouraged to create job opportunities for, I can't read the rest of this. Can she bring the screen up? I'm sorry. Ugh.
I don't, it says full, it's full, but I can finish it for you.
Please, for something. I couldn't read the last line.
For these descendants.
Okay, okay.
That's it. Yes.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Recommendation 12, environmental justice and health initiatives. Promote environmental justice and overall community health through specialty clinics, mental health resources tailored to address historical and current challenges.
Thank you, Ms. Deborah. Cindy Torres, would you like to highlight recommendations 13 and 14?
Sure.
Thank you.
Infrastructure development. Restoration requires more than just returning lands. It calls for equipping those lands with modern amenities and services to ensure residents and their descendants can build a prosperous future. Number 14, preventing recurrence and legal changes. Advocacy for changing laws and policies aims at preventing the recurrence of the injustices that Russell City faced.
Thank you, Cindy. Michael V. Johnson, would you like to share 15 and 16?
Absolutely. Recommendation number 15, Russell City Community Center. Establishing a community center within the old Russell City boundaries to foster community development, well-being, social interaction, education, and recreation. Recommendation number 16, property restoration and fair compensation in Russell City. Owners unable to reclaim their lands due to existing infrastructure or business, compensation must be provided at the full 2023 market value. Additionally, for lands currently under lease to companies, redirecting leaseback payments to the original owners or their descendants is a just and recommended course of action.
Thank you. Tony Nguyen, would you like to share out 17 and 18?
Yes. Recommendation 17, recommendations based on human rights and restoration of property, tying restitution to universally acknowledged human rights as defined by the UN, assures that the recommendation transcends local politics and biases. The focus is to achieve a universally fair and just outcome that values human dignity and liberty. And that's all that I can see from here.
You're doing great.
Thank you.
18.
Recommendation 18, restitution of denial of infrastructure and community base. The term infrastructure encompasses more than tangible assets like sewers or roads. Lack of essential services like sewers magnified the social and economic divide, making it an issue of generational wealth. Hence, proper restitution for these systemic denials is not just desirable, but necessary. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Michael D. Johnson, would you like to share recommendations 19 and 20?
Yes. Recommendation number 19, Russell City Comprehensive Housing Initiative, create a housing preference policy which emphasizes affordable housing for descendants affected by the Russell City redevelopment project of 1963 to 1968 and those currently experiencing recommendation number 20, education and documentation. Create a dedicated documentary and textbooks that preserve the complete story and legacy.
Thank you, Michael. Carolyn Johnson, would you like to share recommendations 21 and 22?
Absolutely, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Recommendation number 21, memorials and commemoration memorabilia and monuments to honor the memory and contributions of Russell City's residents. Recommendation number 22, official apologies and acknowledgement, government apologies of the wrongs committed.
Thank you. Priscilla Figueroa, would you like to share items 23 and 24?
I can't. I don't have them in front of me. I'm messing with my computer.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's okay that you don't have them printed in front of you.
Okay, I can read what's on this on the
On the screen.
video.
Perfect.
23.
Yes.
Recognition of Russell City luminaries and documentation of contribution. Celebrate contributions activists, and other distinguished figures through a comprehensive, permanent historical archive. Supplement with a dedicated website displaying audiovisual testimonials from surviving community members. Number 24 is revitalization of Russell City's heritage and community spaces, reinstatement of Russell City's original street names, develop of green spaces or parks to serve as recreational hubs, cultural centers, and education centers.
Thank you, Priscilla. And the last
Welcome.
two recommendations from the summary of recommendations that were created from the survey.
Thelma came over.
Liz Sanchez, would you like to read those or would you like me to assist?
I'll do one and you do the last one.
Okay.
Okay, recommendation 25, Russell City Cultural Heritage Preservation Commission. City of Hayward should establish an independent Russell City Cultural Heritage Commission, RCCHC, to oversee preservation efforts, ensuring representation from Russell City descendants and cultural specialists. Key initiatives would encompass cultural mapping, designating a Russell City Cultural Heritage Month, founding a dedicated cultural center, and incorporating Russell City's heritage into Hayward's educational curriculum.
Thank you, Liz. And recommendation number 26, transparency and accountability. A dedicated platform that isn't controlled by the City of Hayward and will ensure transparency and accountability plus safety to have trauma-informed conversations, providing information about the ongoing efforts in real time to former residents and their descendants. So those are the 26 recommendations. And those recommendations, or those general categories of recommendations, were created based on the hundreds of surveys that were submitted in the fall. And those categories were summarized by our partners at the Series Policy Research Group. Now, we're moving into the community input discussion on the. If you'd like to see all of the recommendations, there is a link to them, and there was also a link that went out in the invitation or in the email announcement about this meeting. But we're happy to share it again after the meeting because we know that we went through a lot of information. Having said that, there were 26 general categories. There's a general 27th category, and that's where we need your help. We need your help identifying if what you believe the recommendations that we as a steering committee should be making to the Hayward City Council all fit within those categories, and or if you would like to see additional information or additional items presented to the City Council. So I know that there have been some comments placed in the chat. Now is the time where we'd like to hear feedback from you. We, as a steering committee, those members of the steering committee, we've done a preliminary ranking of the recommendations, which we'll share in a few minutes. So you can have an idea of what our priorities look like as a larger group. Are there items that you like about the recommendations? Is there information missing that you would like to see? You don't necessarily have to answer that now, but know that we would like your input. The best way to submit the input is online. via the survey. And the link to the survey was placed in the chat. But let's have a conversation about what you would like to see if there was something that was missing. Now, based on the number of people who are on this meeting and the opportunity to hear from a number of people who may want to share out information, we ask that your comments right now be less than or up to 2 minutes. So if you would like to share some information about the recommendations, items that you would like to see that maybe are not listed as part of the general categories, or if you have comments about the categories that have been shared, feel free to raise your virtual hand.
Also, there's people like on the phone line, maybe you can let them know how they can log on because some people may not know.
We'll give them a moment to unmute themselves or raise their hands via Zoom using the phone controls. So if you're calling in, I can't remember what the specific action is. Is it #9 or is it?
It should be *6.
*6?
Yes, so for callers on the phone, you should be able to unmute by pressing *6 and feel free, yes, let us know if you're not able to. I can also try to unmute the folks on the phone if you need that.
Thank you. We have a hand raised from, first we'll go with Arthur Long and then Zenobia Mills Rowe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was taken aback by the apology being included on as one of the recommendations. Is this something that came about from input by the committee? Was it by series? Was it by the city? Why was that included?
Arthur, we'll allow for the comments first, and then we'll regroup as a committee and try to answer all of the, we'll do our best to answer some of the questions so that we can get as many comments as possible. So this is basically a public comment period related to the 26 recommendations or additional recommendations that you'd like to share. Rather than answer your specific question right now, we'll try and take into consideration all of the questions to see if we can make some general statements that would help answer them. So would you like to use the remainder of your 2 minutes, or does that conclude your comments?
Oh, that concluded it. I'm just glad that you're having a meeting. It's been so long. We've been waiting for you and waiting to hear from you. So thank you for having a public meeting.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Ms. Zenobia, we see your hand. Hi.
A very wonderful work in constructing the recommendations. I just want a clarification. We did receive or could log on to getting the survey online. So are we still to fill that out, or is this the recommendations you're doing tonight? Is that just the order that they're going into?
Thank you for your question, and Arthur Long. So we will posit these 2 questions. So the survey, the results that we're sharing tonight are draft recommendations. They are not final recommendations. We wanted to bring them to you, and Mr. Long, we acknowledge that we have not had a public meeting. As you can see, the process of discussing the survey results after September took time. And it took quite a bit of time for us as a committee, considering the holidays also came into play. And we, do our best to meet twice a month. So we didn't want to come back to you until we had substantive information to present. And so that's, you know, I think you can see the fruit of our labor tonight in the 26 categories. And, you know, you can see that there has been a lot of work that's been going on behind the scenes. To answer your question, Ms. Zenobia, this survey is not set in stone. We know that you know, this information is fluid. So there was the the survey that was completed in the fall. So after the Russell City reunion picnic, all of the results from the hundreds of people that answered the questions are what the 26 recommendations have been created out of. And so now, you know, what our hope is that for those of you who completed the survey, you know, after or at the Russell City reunion picnic in September, that you can take a look at these recommendations and identify what you think the most important is right now, and identify your top 26. It's hard because, you know, there are many who want everything to be number one. And then there are some strong opinions about what the top priorities should be. We don't want to assume that we understand that. And so that's why we're going over the recommendations tonight and asking you for your feedback. Mr. Rafiq Mohammed, my apologies. We see your hand.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I am Rafiq Mohammed and representing the Pryor family. With regard to some of the 26, is there more information going to be available? I'd like to see more information available, especially like ones that specifically scholarship. Who does that apply to? Is there any criteria for, is this just moving forward for scholarships and stipends? Or does it include reimbursement of scholarship? And I mean, my wife and I, we put 3 daughters through the university out of our own, you know, pocket, and it would have been helpful for us if there was some funds available for that. So I was wondering, is that just moving forward, or is there any talk or any language around something like that for reimbursement?
Thank you.
If I may, there's one person in the chat, I think, who also had a comment around prioritization.
Are you able to read that particular comment?
Yes, absolutely. And sorry, Mr. Rafiq, was there more you wanted to add? I know you raised a question, but did you want to? I think you raised a really great.
I do want to add. I do have one more
please.
comment that I intended to share with the group. In putting our children through college, we had to rob Peter to pay Paul. And I'm just wondering if those type of resources would be sought, reimbursement of college tuition. Because I didn't see, I mean, it's just asked, there's a statement there, but I didn't see any criteria for obtaining or what the actual intent was. Looking backwards, and it looks like it's just looking forward. I could be wrong.
Thank you, Mr. Mohammed. I know our chair and vice chair will kind of group all the questions towards the end. Just kind of a brief point of process. We're working to prioritize suggestions going to council. So for example, this could be a great modification. So if you wanted to advocate for, you know, modifying this recommendation slightly, so it's saying past and present, that could be something that the committee takes into consideration But I believe these are all kind of open to interpretation, and a lot of the specific details will come after the city staff get some direction from city council. So I'll leave the chair and vice chair to maybe revisit that in the questions. I'm going to briefly read Ruth Utse, or Utse, sorry if I pronounced that wrong. Ruth says, hello, everyone. My name is Ruth Utse, and I descend from the Torchete family. Sorry if I said that wrong. Rosalie Torchette is my mother. I agree with compensation of land or value. I also agree with historical education to the public. So 2 recommendations around compensation, and also it sounds like it would be great to clarify, Ruth, if you mean the portion around the curricula to maintain the historical information, but education is the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ayankoya. And thank you, Mr. Mohammed. I see a hand raised for Jaya.
Yes, hello. I love all of this. It's wonderful. I made notes of the ones that I really resonated the most with, and the top 3 are numbers 6, 8, and 10. But then I went on to note 16 and number 20. But overall, here's a question that I'm wondering about. There seems out of these 26 to be several that can be grouped into maybe 4 major areas type of thing. And I realize in politics and in work like this, it is very important to be very specific and to break things down. So is there some comment you might want to make about why a few of these recommendations seem very similar and could be grouped versus keeping them separate? Or do you know what I'm trying to say? So that's what I'm trying to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll take, so the question that you had about, possibly summarizing the recommendations further versus leaving them in somewhat specific categories. And Mr. Mohammed, I'll speak to your question about, the specifics of the scholarship recommendation and whether or not this speaks to everything or to things moving forward, or if there would be the possibility of a retroactive reimbursement for education. I think your question is one that we don't have an answer to in this meeting, but that we would appreciate your feedback, your written feedback in the prioritization of the recommendations. And, I think what you've proposed is helpful for us to also share as part of the recommendations. So I'm not sure if that answers your question briefly, but I think that is helpful for us to also document formally. And Jaya, with regards to your questions related to, and feel free, Vice Chair Sanchez, if there's anything that I have missed. So with regards to the specific categories, so although we were not able to be joined by the research group that summarized the results of the survey for us, or on behalf of the committee and on behalf of the city of Hayward, what I think is that there was enough information for the results to kind of be sorted in these 26 different groups. And one unique thing about this process, as it's a new process that hasn't been done before, And as it is a process that, as you can see, remains very fluid, and we're learning with every meeting, we want to make sure that we try and incorporate as much as we can from the broader Russell City community, so that we have it on the record, so that the concerns and priorities and recommendations from our families are included to the best of our ability now, because there's a lot of research going done that will continue to happen, over, what we hope is over the next, at least at a minimum over the next few years. Because there's a lot of information about Russell City that still has yet to be formalized and brought forward. Vice Chair Sanchez.
Thank you. Yes, some of them do sound familiar, like Jaya was saying, but we did, when you first opened the survey, there is categories that from 1 to 5 that some of them fell under the different categories. So if you can rank the categories, like here, I'll share my screen, what those categories are again. So if you can see that, let me see. The first one was compensation. Second one was guarantee. Well, they're not in this order, but we're asking you to put them in the order you would like to see them. And it's the first page of the draft. So the 26 recommendations fall under one of these categories. So that way it can help us determine the priority in the report to council. That was it. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking for, are there any of the former, so some of the former residents that are joining us tonight, do you have initial thoughts, any initial thoughts about the recommendations? So Liz, if you are able to help call on hands.
Sure. Go ahead, Mimi Dean.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Well, I think this is, I'm really glad that you guys are presenting all these recommendations to the city of Hayward, because this is really long overdue. I really like the compensation. I like the education. I just wanted to mention that there's a really great piece of property. It's the former SkyWest Golf Course. And there's a beautiful facility on there. It's the old restaurant that would make an amazing educational center and community center. And really, that's pretty much as close as we can get to where Russell City is/was. So I'm hoping that when you bring this to Hayward, that they're going to do the right thing. And that's it for tonight for me. Thank you so much for all you do.
Thank you for your comments, Mimi. Next, we'll go to James Knowles.
Yeah, my comments are focused on the series group. Prior to them being selected to do the survey in Hayward, they were part of the San Francisco project that dealt specifically with slavery. And then they signed up to be, or they were chosen to do the Hayward Russell City project. And they may have caused some confusion in terms of how they handled San Francisco and slavery versus the eminent domain issues that we faced in Russell City. So they may have been overly detailed in terms of what they tried to do for Russell City versus the stuff they did in San Francisco. In San Francisco, they were less than 10. I think there were about 7 specific categories and recommendations that they came up with. And then to follow that up with what was requested of them in Russell City may have caused them some problems. That's just my guess. I don't know because they're not here. And that's it.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hand raise.
Okay.
Ronnie, unless it's Ronnie trying to raise your hand or clap, I'm not sure. But if Ronnie, if it's you, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, my name is Ronnie Stewart, Executive Director, West Coast Blues Society. It's been our job for years to perpetuate the history of Russell City. Russell City have the infrastructure of being a New Orleans French Quarters or Memphis Beale Street. The history in Russell City, what I was looking for in the survey was something that speaks to a I heard part of the like a center. I didn't hear anything about like a Walk of Fame, Russell City Walk of Fame, or a physical building that would share. It could be a museum / educational institute. And just like Mohammed said, are we moving forward with that? I definitely want the city fathers and city mothers to hear about that in part of this proposal when you take it to the city so they can so we could continue to perpetuate the history, because what actually kept Russell City's name, one might say, in the limelight was the musicians, the Big Mama Thorntons, the T-Bone Walkers, the John Lee Hookers, the Etta James, who used to perform out there after her shows in Oakland. So I was just hoping we could speak directly to that and not let it get sort of lost in a general maze or general conversation. If it speak to, we'd like to see a Russell City Hall of Fame and further funding, a fund set aside to continually perpetuate the history of Russell City's music, because Russell City, for people who don't know, there are certain sounds in the music industry, and West Coast blues sound was birthed in Russell City and Oakland. So that's very important worldwide. And the only mention of Russell City throughout the world was the musicians. So Russell City have a lot of a momentum, one might say, and I'd like to see that spoke directly to. So I'll just do it in order. 1, a Russell City Hall of Fame, a Russell City Walk of Fame, sort of like the one I done in Oakland, or like the Hollywood Walk of Fame with the name. And we can move it out of the music and put some of the leaders or some of the famous families from Russell City in the plaque on the ground. So anyway, if one could put that in there as a definite request, at least it'll be known.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. I also hope that you will record those comments in the survey as well.
Okay. Oh, can I say one more thing? We just
Sure.
released Songs of Russell City Volume 1, and it's about 13, 14 songs. And we done a matrix of all the famous songs that was played in Russell City. And of course, it's on all the platforms, iTunes, Amazon. And if anybody like me to give them a copy, I will, a hard copy. A lot of people don't use CDs no more, but kind of old school. But if you like, I could send you one. But anyway, that again is a tool to keep Russell City presence in the general public. A lot of people is listening to the CD and they inquiring about Russell City.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that information with us. And we've noted it, but also hope that you and other members of the West Coast Blues Society will also take a moment to complete the survey for us, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Okay.
Next one is Kathy.
Hi, there's Deborah Rivera who's online. Her last 4 digits are 9936. She can't unmute herself and she'd like to speak.
Yeah, I'll work to unmute her now. Thank you so much, Ms. Rodriguez. And also, I think Mimi Dina's had their hand up for a while.
Thank you. Mimi, is this a new hand or was this from your previous comment?
Sorry, I had my hand up. I forgot to turn it off.
No
Thank
worries.
you.
Thank you. Okay, are there any comments in the chat that are related to the recommendations?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm trying to unmute the attendee, I think who Ms. Rodriguez is named. I believe they're off mute now. I don't see them as muted, but if you could just press *6 to that person if you're not able to speak. And then I did see one question, one comment from Ms. Bruce, and then another from Daniel that I can read out unless our co-chair, Madam Co-Chair, wants to read that out.
Okay, the one from Ruth. Do any of the categories include or suggest anything for pain and suffering? The treatment from the city towards the residents was horrible, depriving them of basic needs that others were entitled to.
Okay. I see. So we'll take a break from the comments in the chat. And I believe Ms. Ayan Koya may have shared the recommendation related to pain and suffering. So we'll come back to that. Ms. Erlene Thomas, the floor is yours.
But I think, you got it? Is it on? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. It's more noble persons in the Russell City realm of things that's going on. I would like to recommend, she's deceased now, but it was a lot of other people that tutored me, counseled me, like LG Tollfree. She formed a teen center for the teenagers in Russell City. I would like to give her commend for doing that for us. She made it possible for us to go to conferences and everything. LG Tollfree, you need to step in and put some of the people that tried to help beside of the music. It's a lot of people down there. I had a lot of people talking to me, trying to groom me of how to be a lady and all different kind of things, you know. My recommendation would be to mention some of those people are the people of that nature in your survey. Another one was Dorothy Kimball. Mother Ross. I can name like about 6 of them that counsel teen girls that need to be recommended too, that actually came to Russell City when it was being formed without the music and everything. They had interest in the children, how they were going to grow up and be. I think I told them my recommendation. I would like to commend those people that helped the young teens there. Nobody else in Hayward or Alameda was reaching out to us. It was a lot of teens down there.
So Ms. Erlene, we have Dorothy Kimball, LG Tollfree. You mentioned Mother Ross. You have additional names?
Yes, I can't think of them right now, but it's a lots of them.
Okay.
I mean, several of them. And the boys too, Dewey Ramsey, Gilbert and Rudy Brooks.
Yeah, I was going to say Buster Brooks, who was the NAACP representative.
Yes, he was.
NAACP to Russell City and started the volunteer fire.
And I say it often. You really had to. Let's see. I came to Russell City when I was 4.5, and I didn't leave until I was 20. I haven't wrote this essay as yet, and it's a lot of things that we went through down there that is not being said, like when people actually got in trouble or accident or something, and their house being burnt down before this started in 1963, I think. We lost several people out there, and the ambulance, they didn't come, the fire department, they didn't care. That's all I had to say, because it's very emotional to me. Instead of worrying about a lot of other stuff, I just want to say this. That
As we Arlene, our apologies. We needed to mute a couple folks that were off mute. So if you could come off of mute and finish your thought, I think it's important that we hear it.
those original people.
There you go. Ms. Arlene, we apologize. We had a couple people that were off mute the same time that you were speaking, and so we needed to quickly mute them so that they weren't interrupting what you were saying. But if you, I think we missed the tail end of what you were talking about, so you're welcome to re-say it if you would like.
No, it's too emotional for me. I'll say that. The whole scenario about Russell City is too emotional. So, but if you could just mention, I would appreciate it.
Yes. Well, we thank you for being here, and I can't imagine how painful it is for many of you. Thank you, Ms. Arlene, for sharing that information with us tonight.
You're welcome.
All right. Ms. Sanchez or Ms. Iancoya, I want to make sure that I did not miss anything.
Madam Chair, I would just add, I think the person with the 510 number ending in 936, I believe Ms. Rodriguez said they wanted to make a comment. So if that is your phone number, you are off mute. I think I saw the sound wave. So if you wanted to share information about your thoughts on the recommendations while we're taking public comment, please feel free to do so.
Okay, hi, my name is Debbie, and I do have a comment. I did notice on the 26 suggestions to the Hayward City Council that education was mentioned a few times. I'd like to input a little bit. I know there's a lot of families that maybe they don't want to, their children do not want to go to college. What about like a trade school or vocational? Hello? That would help also be inputted into that, because there's a lot of trades out there that they can make some really good money. And I had experience in working with, as an advocate for an agency where we did recommend those that didn't want to go to college. They went to trade school, electrician, carpentry, and they did well. And then another thing too is, what about the younger children? Like, would they think or consider like a preschool, so the parents could go to school to a higher level of education while their children are being taken care of in school? Is something like that in the educational field?
Thank you. So
that would support and encourage them to continue their education.
Yes, so just so we hear you clearly, you would like to see an addition to the education items so that they include trade schools or certificate programs.
Yes.
Perfect. And then also the opportunity for preschool or TK or childcare services to be covered so that former residents and descendants can continue their education.
Correct. And I think that would be very beneficial because childcare is so expensive. So that would be a great encouragement for the families to continue their education while their child's being cared for and with the low or maybe no cost to them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Did I... Last call for comments related to the recommendations or some suggestions you'd like to see. And if you don't have them or any items to share in this moment, that's completely okay. We just ask that you make an effort to complete the survey as to please complete the survey, identify what the 26 priorities are for you. And then in addition to completing it, if you could also share it with those you know who are also from the larger Russell City community, that would help us as well. We want to make sure that we get your feedback as part of this process as we look at the summary of the 26 categories. So I see that there are 2 committee members that have their hands raised. Is this related to this item, or we are getting ready to share the summary of what committee members submitted? 1 second, I have multiple messages moving. So I see Kathy Rodriguez with hand raised, and then Priscilla Figueroa. But first, Ms. Iankoya.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll step back because I want to make sure we're centering community voices tonight. I just want to again thank the chair and vice chair and the whole committee for their leadership, and to the members of the public, want to encourage that if there are any missing recommendations or if there are things that you have not heard that you think are critical to include, this is a great opportunity to raise that. So far, just from my listening in and taking a few notes, I'm hearing recommendations for modifications and maybe some question around the background. But if there is anything missing that was not said, I would just encourage folks either now in the conversation or in the survey to make a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Iankoya, for summarizing that. Kathy Rodriguez and then Priscilla Figueroa.
I just have a short comment dealing with the community getting to know what we are doing and what we're trying to do. I think it would be beneficial for the Russell City community that is not here, because there's only 62 participants, and I know there's more community members, that we should have another community meeting and make sure that the community is well abreast on what we're doing and what we're trying to do, and so they can take part in it.
Thank you. Priscilla Figueroa.
Okay, this is regarding the publication and storytelling and also the Russell City Cultural Heritage Preservation Commission. We spoke in the committee, different ideas, and it was mentioned that perhaps in our school curriculum in the city of Hayward, that maybe we have the children what happened in Russell City, because we don't want this to happen again in our town or anywhere else. And maybe have a Russell City Day in the city of Hayward to commemorate Russell City and all the contributions that were given to the city of Hayward, and also to perpetuate Russell City was about, the community. And it's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Priscilla. Deborah Harris. Deborah, okay.
I'm
Now
so
you're off
sorry.
mute. No problem.
Okay, never mind. No, nothing. I'm fine. I'll make my statement some other time. Because this whole steering committee and this whole process is a result of the apology from the city of Hayward, correct? And so that's what we're doing. That's what this whole process is about. So that has to do with all the community, the residents of Russell City and their descendants. So that's the statement that I wanted to make. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, it's 7:24. And so I think, so Jaya.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if that's,
Yes, that's me. I
Okay.
just wanted to add something. I'm a senior citizen and I'm white, and I did not live in Russell City, but I was remembering how disturbed I was back in the 60s when the news somehow was reporting what was going on. I mean, what I want to add to this is that there are a lot of people in the greater Hayward and other areas that are disturbed about the injustice that was done. See, so you know, we don't want to let something like this slip through. It just can't get not rectified. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaya. Mr. Muhammad.
I just wanted to
I see your
quickly
hand.
just touch on a couple suggestions that I'd like to see as options or categories. One being property tax exemption, mortgage forgiveness, and also student loan forgiveness. Were you able to hear me?
Yes, I did hear you. Your sound was good. I was trying to write the suggestions you were sharing. So property tax forgiveness, mortgage forgiveness, and student loan forgiveness.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay. I think this brings us to so we've gotten some feedback. We know that after this meeting, you might think of something, or you might be talking to someone over the course of the week. You might think of something new. So please, if you're able to, copy the link in the chat and click on it or save it for later. We want to make sure that you share your thoughts with us so that we can help add them to the categories of recommendations that have been made, and or add them in a new category. So as the 13 members of the steering committee we did our own exercise of going through the proposed recommendations And so we thought it would be beneficial to share what our draft results were of the 26 recommendations. So Michael V. Johnson, I know I did not ask you this ahead of time, but if you are able to come off of mute.
I can share it. I can share the
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you. So the font's kind of small, so we'll give people
I'm
time to
sorry.
adjust their screen.
Let
That's
me see if
okay.
I can make it bigger.
So for some background context, each of the 13 committee members, we identified our top 26, or we prioritized the recommendations 1 through 26, with 1 being the most important, what we'd like to see immediately. The results of what the committee members contributed were then compiled anonymously, so it was not the results. Each committee member sent the results to either myself and Liz, or Liz and then Michael V. Johnson was kind enough to tabulate all of the results into this spreadsheet. So I want to give a moment to Michael V. Johnson if you would like to highlight the 3 different groupings of rankings, because there is a green category, yellow, and red.
Yes, I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
So when you look at the 26 categories, or the 26 recommendations that were proposed by series for consideration, they fall into the categories that are outlined in column C. And as you can see, all of the ones that are in green have something to do with restitution, compensation, or rehabilitation. And you can see at a high level what the description of that particular recommendation was as presented in the report. The middle 10, if you will, are those that fell below those top 8, that really spoke to things like guarantees of non-repetition, satisfaction, and rehabilitation. And the last of which are highlighted in red, are the lowest 8 combined scores of the 13 steering committee members, where you can see the remaining recommendations and how they ranked. To the left, you will see in column E, we wanted to make sure that people understood what it was ranked on in terms of the mean being the average score, which is taking all of the scores of each of the members and dividing it by the number of members who did those scores. So literally taking the total score, dividing it by 13, and it yields what you see in column 1. Column 2, in terms of average, speaks to how we generally think about when we talk about the real estate market, where they always tell us about the median price or the cost that's right in the middle of the 13 scores. And so what you see in the second column is that score that came up where there were 6 scores higher and there were 6 scores lower than the median score. And you can see how that ranks all the way down for each of those. The third average speaks to the number of times a particular score was given most frequently. So you can see how in rank number 1, property restoration and fair compensation, the score that most of our members gave the most was a score of 1. If you go down to, I believe it is row 4, you can see that there were 2 scores that were most frequent, a ranking of 2 and a ranking of 6. So when you see multiple numbers in that one, that really says that these are the 3 rankings that occurred the most for that particular recommendation. And then finally, the last row basically shows the range. That is, what is the highest score, being a 1, and what is the lowest score in the case of the first recommendation being a 17, meaning that there was somebody on the committee that scored this particular one as a 17. So that just gives you the range. So you can see some of the ranges are tighter and some of the ranges are wider. But primarily it's just to give you some insight into how each of the members, without disclosing who they were or how they scored, how they fell, and how their scores impacted how we prioritize each of the 26 recommendations. Is there any questions?
Well, the first question is to see if Ms. Sanchez could enlarge her text just a little bit more.
Is that better?
Well, maybe try 200% and see what it looks like.
And is there a way to get all 26 on the screen at one time?
No, with 100%, it makes it smaller. We can actually, Josephine, perhaps we can place this on the website, but we absolutely do not want to influence your survey decisions either. So that's why we waited to the last to share this with you, because it's just 13 of us, but there's so many more of you. So we want to take the feedback from the survey.
Madam Vice Chair, we can definitely add that resource on the website. In the chat, I did note a link to various reports and research, and we can work on probably in the next 2 business days. So giving you all about a week before the survey deadline, having that available if it's helpful.
Thank you, Ms. Iancoya. And thank you, Michael V. Johnson, for sharing. First, for compiling the results of the committee in that spreadsheet, and for color coding it and identifying the similarities and differences in our rankings. Are there any questions for Michael before we move on to the next item? Okay, so we have a couple of announcements as you think about the results of the survey and consider how you will fill out, or we'll think about filling out the link to the survey, and we encourage you to share the link to the survey and the survey information with those that you know and love who are from Russell City. Everyone is not on this meeting tonight. Not everyone was able. We are mindful of the fact that Zoom is not everyone's favorite, thing to do in the evening, because some folks work and some folks are already in their pajamas. And that is completely okay. But if you know someone that either is a descendant of Russell City is a former resident of Russell City, please share this information with them, call them. This is the type of survey that you can fill out on a mobile device. And if in a worst case scenario, in an alternate scenario, if you're not able to, if you're having some challenges online, we want to invite you to, or we invite you to contact the city if you have any questions related to accessing the survey. Now, in the chat, there were links placed to additional information. So those of you who are on the meeting tonight, we hope that you found out about this meeting because you are signed up for the Russell City Reparative Justice Project Steering Committee email list. That is where you are going to receive additional information about the committee. If you are not, this is a good time to sign up because we have more info that we're going to be sending out about meeting dates and information about how you can continue to stay connected with us as a committee. And as the city council discusses draft recommendations or items related to Russell City, this is the platform, this is one of the platforms that we hope to use in order to share that information with you. Also so that you can share it with others who may not necessarily be on email or on the computer or on Zoom. So that's first. Second, I wanted to connect back with Assistant City Manager Regina Youngblood to offer the opportunity to share any comments and updates from the city tonight.
Good evening. Thank you so much, Chair Knowles. I just wanted to say I was so invigorated and excited about the discussion that I was hearing tonight. You know, as a representative of a city that was tasked by our city council to work with the members of the Russell City community to figure out what restitution might look like, this was delivering on that promise and on that direction in action. We're getting so close now to being able to bring some recommendations forward to the city council for their consideration. And just as a member of the Hayward community, a member of the Hayward city staff, I'm very excited about the conversation that I heard tonight. And I will continue to support this effort, not just because it is the job that I've been tasked with, but because I believe in restitution for communities like Russell City and others. And this is a first step towards the city of Hayward basically, you know, not just apologizing, but actually putting action behind those words. And so just kudos to the steering committee and kudos to this community for all that you've done and all that you will do to seek justice for Russell City.
Thank you, Ms. Youngblood. All right. Just make sure I'm not missing something. So the next item to the end of the meeting. So one announcement that we have, or after you sign up for the email list, after you share it with your friends, after you've completed what the draft survey, your draft survey recommendations are going to be, or the input that you provide for items that are not in any of the categories that have been identified. We want to make sure that you save the date of March 26th. It's Tuesday, March 26th, 2024, because that is the date that has been confirmed. And Ms. Youngblood, I will ask that you please correct any of this information if I've misspoken. On March 26th, there is a Hayward City Council work session scheduled. So the draft recommendations that we have been going over tonight and the feedback that you hopefully will take a moment to provide to us will be part of the information that we share with the Hayward City Council members on March 26th. And so we hope that you will stay connected with us so that we can provide updates about that meeting and or the next public meeting prior to, if we're able to schedule one prior to the meeting on the 26th. So please make note of that date. I believe the time will be in the evening, and in preparation for that meeting, the meeting information packet will be posted online so that the public can see it. So we just want to make everyone aware of that date. Ms. Youngblood or Ms. Iankoya, if I forgot anything, if you could please, related to that, if you could please add it now.
I think you covered everything quite well, Chair Knowles. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, if I may, I just want to say thank you all so much. Thank you for your leadership, Madam Chair and Vice Chair. Thank you to the full steering committee, all the members and alternates, and all the members of the community. I won't repeat what Regina just said, but I do, as a new person to this work, it's very much an exciting opportunity to be a part of history. So please continue to do the good work. And I think Madam Vice Chair had one more slide for the memoriam. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Sanchez? Okay. Before we end the meeting tonight, we know that it's been a few months since the last time we've seen everyone virtually in person. We want to take a moment to say thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience and understanding that this is a fluid process, and we are all learning a lot throughout the course of the work of the committee. You know, we are here representing so many others that are both present and no longer with us, and you know, are working, doing our best to make them proud and ensure that our stories are in the forefront and never forgotten. We know that in the last couple of months, there are members of the Russell City community that have passed away, and so we wanted to hold space for anyone that would, if there is someone you'd like to share the name of, or you can place the name in the chat, we want to acknowledge those who may have passed away since our last meeting.
Priscilla has her hand raised.
Priscilla?
Yeah. Brother Peter Wybera Jr., he lived in Russell City, and his parents also own property over there. And also my brother-in-law, Faustino Figueroa, he passed away last month. And Liz Nava. And her brother, I can't think of his name right now. They passed away within the last couple, 2 to 3 months. Thank you.
And we also have James Knowles with his hands raised.
Yes, I'd like to announce to the folks that Lester Johnson passed away a couple of weeks ago, and he has a memorial service this Saturday at 1 o'clock at CP Bannon in Oakland.
Thank you, Dad, and thank
Hello?
you, Priscilla.
Hello?
Sam, good evening.
Yes, I was busy. Rocky Ramirez from Russell City, his daughter just passed away a few hours ago. Her name was
Ooh.
Shannon Ramirez, Rocky Ramirez's daughter.
Wow.
That just happened a couple hours ago, so I wasn't able to sneak in and see you guys at work.
Well,
Thank you.
we are grateful you are here, and thank you for sharing that information with us.
Benny.
I just want to make sure that I haven't missed any comments in the chat or hands that are raised. Okay. So for the members of Russell City, for those names that have been shared, and maybe those names that have not been mentioned, but that folks think of afterwards, we just want to lift up all of the people that have been mentioned tonight, and those who may be struggling, and we hold everyone close in our hearts and minds, and wish their families peace. I don't have any additional items on the agenda, as we'd like to adjourn our meeting in memory of all those that have been mentioned tonight. Please stay tuned for information about our next meeting by signing up for our email list through the City of Hayward website. Or if email is not your thing, you are welcome to contact the City of Hayward by phone. I don't have the phone number memorized, but I'm sure if you're on this meeting, you know someone who has a phone number who can find it out for you. But thank you for joining us. Oh, the number to contact, if you're not able to access email, is 510-583-3799. Thank you for joining us this evening. We adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of those Russell City, or members of the Russell City family who are no longer with us. Have a peaceful night, and we will see you at the next one. Goodbye.
Bye. Just like to thank the committee for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Everyone.
Good night.
The name is Benny now. Came up.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Oh.
Hey,
Steve,
Edie.
cut this in.
Hey, can I make a comment to Sam Nava? My name is Al Pacheco.
Yes.
Look at else, Nate.
Yeah. I want to thank you personally for keeping the Russell City community together for all the years that you have put forth to keep them together. I believe and think from my heart you did a tremendous job, and I want to thank you.
Nice
Thank
to
you.
see you, Alan.
Thank you. We missed you. You will always be a Russell Cityan, El.
In my heart.
You and your whole family.
I brag about Russell City. I live in Janesville, Wisconsin, and I brag about the community and how well we got together and how much I cherished living and growing up in Russell City.
Latest place.
Yes, and this is my favorite, my uncle, my mom. And guess what? He surprised us today, and he's here in Hayward, if anybody wants to see him.
Oh.
Wow.
Wow, it's so great to see you, Albert. You
Yes.
look
It's
great.
an honor to
Get my phone number from your sister.
Pardon?
Get my phone number from your sister.
I will do that, and I'll give you a buzz, Sam.
Been a long time, and
yes, say hello to Juanita.
I like this hat, bro. USA #1.
All right, thank you. Thank all of you for the work that you've done. I'm totally impressed by you, and I cherish what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good to
Thank
see
you.
you, Al.
Okay.